truly say that this is probably an interview that's been like in the waiting for many years.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, keyboardist for Depeche Mode and all that wonderful stuff. And obviously for the last, it's been about 20 years now for Recoil. Since what, 88?
More, yeah.
Wow.
25 years nearly.
So,
can you believe it?
Yeah, but it's awesome though. I mean, obvious. You've been selling out, different shows. I guess the one over at the Galaxy is sold out.
Yeah, it's a little bit up and down. Some places are slower than others, but most places we've done really well. And all the kind of West Coast stuff, and New York and Chicago, they're all solid places to play.
Oh, yeah.
But I think selling concerts generally in America seems to be quite tough at the moment. I hear, and I think a lot of people are struggling with the economy in the States.
Yeah.
Promoters don't want to take too many risks, all those sort of things. So I wouldn't say it's been the easiest tour to set up compared to perhaps Europe and some of the other places we've been going to. But we had Galaxy sold out in a couple of days. That's with Martin Gould DJing with us. So that was that proved a very popular event. A lot of fans are interested to go to that one. And tonight I think is sold out. And we had almost sold out last night in San Francisco. That's a nice show, and Seattle we had a sellout. So it's going well, really well.
Yeah, well that's good. Why so long?
The main reason is because until recently it would not have been affordable to put on the kind of show that we're putting on with film running all the way through. In recent years, you've got high definition cameras like the one you're using probably, and everyone has affordable technology to do incredible things now, and suddenly I could see a way that I could present this project in a live context, even though it's not in the traditional rock and roll sense,
Right.
And I never really thought I could do that before. So that's the main reason. And I also didn't really want to be on the road. I mean, I did it a lot with Depeche, and at the time I stopped, I was ready to have a break from that and have a family and do other things, Can you hear me? This is Architect, by the way, Daniel Meyer. He's doing his sound check for tonight. He's very loud and noisy.
So it's been, you finally get to do this tour. Tell me a little bit about the tour. Like, what's the whole, the premise behind the film that you have going?
Well,
is it like a storytelling, or?
No, it's a kind of series of individual films to go with the songs, even though they kind of segue and form one long piece of music and one long piece of film. It's divided into the songs, and there's 4 different directors that have worked on it. They're all people that have come to me over a period of time and said, we really love what you do, how can we help? And I've kind of said, well, I'm not sure until now. And then I thought, this is the time when I can really get other people involved that have always wanted to be involved. So I phoned out the music to these people and said, come up with some ideas. I didn't really direct it. I said, just give me your ideas. And then I kind of acted as a kind of executive producer and gave lots of feedback and tried to put it together. And this is a bit like how I work with music as well, and collaborators, Just give them a free rein to do their thing, and then kind of film, direct it, edit it together with my overview. And so we've taken that approach, and you end up with a kind of eclectic mixture of different things, sort of ranging from very ambient, surreal through to quite specific ideas, You'll see.
That's cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Now, when when you're mentioning collaborating, especially with the music, I mean, you've had the lead singer of Nights Rev, you had Curve.
Yes.
How does it work? I mean, obviously there's lyrics involved. Do you write the lyrics for it, or do you just strictly you're strictly music? And you're like, hey, come on in, I got this, you want to do something with it?
Generally speaking, I don't write any words. Well, in fact, I've never really written words for these songs. I occasionally have like a sampled vocal that I may have found from somewhere, and I sometimes give that to someone and say, look, this is the kind of thing I'm looking for, but can you do it in your way? Generally, I just come up with some music, give it to whatever vocalist I have in mind, and say, just write something, whatever you feel works. And then we kind of, they throw something back at me and we discuss it for a bit and we wrestle it into shape, until we eventually end up with some sort of song.
So you've been working with, you've actually worked with Night Rev a few times.
Yeah.
You've done a few remixes, and obviously there was a tour. Now, is that when it all started with Night Rev? I mean, was it, after the, like I guess during the Violated tour, was it, you guys became really good friends and you
Actually,
just kind of stuck with them?
Yeah, well, it was before that, in fact, because they were signed to be. Oh, that's a good sound, isn't it? That's actually that's a bit of a coup for you, because you can hear he does the occasional bit of mode into his mix, you know. I think he's trying that now. There's a bit of behind the wheel there. But he does it in his architect style, you know, so it's very different. Lots of cut-up beats and things. It's alright, don't worry, it's relaxed. It's a very relaxed interview today, isn't it?
Yes, it's very...
So what was the question again?
No, when it comes to the relationship with the Night Rev.
Oh yeah, Night Rev. Well, I met Douglas even before that, in the mid-80s. They were signed to Mute around that time. And we immediately became quite good friends. We would find ourselves in the same recording studios, doing things. And then they were invited to be a support to Depeche Mode on, I can't remember the first tour they did, but it would have been in the 80s. And I got to know them, and then I invited Douglas, well actually he asked if I would produce one of their albums, which was Headhead. I think that was about 1999, around that time, just before Violator. I think it was just before Violator. So I did that with them, and then I asked Douglas to sing on one of my records, because I had the Recoil project going by then. And we've kind of always been friends, you know, we've stuck together since, and he did a few more later on.
And he was just with you over the European tour, right?
We did 2 shows with them, yeah.
Right.
And he came and did a vocal on one night, or 2 nights, yeah.
Cool.
So, sorry about that noise.
It's funny.
It's alright. When it falls down, they'll be like, oh no. No, but okay, so I have so many questions and it's hard to just like pick them all out. So now, with your producing, now have you ever? Now I don't know, you probably heard this question a million times, but like, have you ever thought about like producing like a Depeche Mode album or something? I mean, because obviously, I'm not gonna lie, you're the better part, watching Depeche Mode, and,
Well, I mean, that's something that's not really for me to say. If they ever asked me, I don't think they would ever ask me to produce an album, because that would be like being back in the band, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah.
And I don't think I would ever want to do that,
Yeah.
But I never ruled out sort of doing some sort of collaborations, because just recently we proved that it's possible to do the occasional thing together, and that's nice. It's re-establishing a friendship and a relationship, and I think that's really cool.
What was that like?
Well, we did the Albert Hall thing, and then which was really a great evening. It's just an easy thing to do. It pleased a lot of people, and it just showed that sort of everyone's kind of grown up and gets on with things, and
Sober.
there's no grudges, and everyone's sober. Well, I'm not sober,
Ah.
but and what was I going to say? And then Martin, of course, I invited Martin to come and take part in some of the Recoil events, and little collaborations like that. I think are always possible.
It's always nice to get a little something special like
Yeah.
that. Now, what about, because you have a pretty good relationship with Dave.
Yeah.
Right. Now, have you guys ever talked about doing something together? I mean, Recoil / whatever, because he has his own thing that he does, and when he's not doing Depeche Mode, he's got a few.
We've never spoken about it. No. No.
And then, okay.
But we chat every now and again. I mean, he doesn't get out very much these days, so I don't see him very often. But we have occasional text and email conversations, and the odd phone call, and chat.
Yeah, that's cool. And now you say you have a family now.
Yeah, I've had a family for a long time. I've got 2 children. Daughter's 15. She's called Paris, and then I've got Stanley, who's 9 years old now.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So then
There's Daniel. That's the guy that was making all the noise.
That's good.
Nice.
Ruined my interview, didn't you? With that racket.
That crazy rumbling going on up here. Yeah, and now with this tour, how do you decide what acts you want to come up?
Well, usually by accident, you just sort of people come to mind, or maybe they live in the city that you're playing and you think, oh, they might be good to get involved, Friend of a friend introduced me to Daniel's music and I really liked that, so I kind of invited him along and he graciously accepted, wanted to come and play some dates. And it's just, the ideas come to mind as you go along and just think, oh yeah, that would be a cool thing to do in that city, I always wanted to make each event slightly different if possible.
Right.
It's not always possible, but to have some after show parties, have different people come and maybe display their artwork, or just something to make it a bit more of a happening rather than just a standard gig,
Yeah. So these days, what have you been listening to?
Me?
Like iPod, on your iPod or whatever?
Okay, well the most, I've been listening to Architect, I've been listening to Gil Scott-Heron and the new Uncle stuff, Massive Attack album. Who else am I listening to at the moment? I just bought the new Kings of Leon album, but I haven't heard it yet.
I heard so.
I got it. I picked it up in Starbucks. That's a good deal, isn't it? Get
Oh,
your
wow.
CD in Starbucks, eh?
Yeah, you get your
That's
latte and a
That's
new
the place
album.
to have your CD on. Yes, they swung something good there. Who else I've been listening to? God, I can never think when people ask me this question. I've got an iTunes with about 80 gigabytes of stuff, and I can't think of anything.
Sounds like me.
But I always listen to, a wide variety of music.
Now, have you always been a big fan of electronic music?
Well, some.
Is there what is the because obviously you have your rock and then you have your different types of music, but what's the appeal like to you? What is it that you're like, oh, okay, this is for the time right now, this is good, because everybody has a moment where it's like,
yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I'm specifically into electronic music any more than I'm into other music, and blues and avant-garde and hip hop or anything. I just like all good music, and if it's done well, I can appreciate it. And you can probably hear that within what I do, that there's influences come from all angles.
Oh, yeah.
Gospel, blues, and classical, and electronic, and rock, and all kinds of things that I like. So if you talk about electronic music, I tend to prefer the real minimalists, like Pansonic and Kraftwerk and
Yes.
and very purist electronic music. There's an awful lot of very average standard dance kind of music that's electronic based that's not particularly interesting.
Hey, what do you think of the music today?
Well, that's such a wide question.
Actually, here let's make it simple.
Yeah.
How about the music in America?
Put it this way. Most music, popular music, is not that great, is it? And that's nothing new. Well, ever since the birth of popular music, there's been sort of 80% crap, and then amongst it, there's some really good stuff. And that still applies today.
So what would
a lot
you?
of rubbish out there.
Yeah, no, that's true. What would you consider to be alternative music?
Well,
Because obviously back in the day,
There isn't any such thing anymore.
there is no such thing anymore, and
there's so many genres these days. There's all kinds of styles of music that people say, oh, this is the latest, garage rock dubstep or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. What did I hear one the other day that I'd never heard of? What was it called? I don't know. Anyway, I just lose track of it all. What's alternative and what's this and what's that and the other. Who knows? I guess alternative just means alternative to the most popular music.
Right.
So that means underground music, the music that people don't know that much about.
right, yeah. Now, I want to get a little personal, and I want to ask. So, how do you like being a dad? Obviously it's been 15
I love
years.
being a dad. Yeah, definitely.
What some of the, what would you say, what has been your, I have a 15-year-old myself, and what would you say what was your most memorable moment? Not being like the greatest moment, but it's something that you're like, oh boy, I knew this was going to happen, type kind of thing.
That's a really difficult question, actually, because I don't know. It's the little things with children, it's not some special achievement that they've done or some winning of a race at school. It's nothing like that. It's just the little moments, you know, the little moments where their love is unconditional and it's obvious, you know, or the moments when they have total vulnerability and you think they absolutely need you, and you know that makes you feel very humble and very special, and that your life should be devoted to them in a way. You know, even though I do believe, you know, as you need to retain your own individuality, and you can't devote all your time to your children, you know, that's, but on the other hand, you know, they do bring you down to earth, and they kind of make you realise there's a bit more to life than everything you have in your head, you know, and all the things you want to do all the time.
Right. No.
So it's about, for me, it's always a balancing act, because I still want to be able to do what I do, and of course it's tricky to, you know, for example, being on the road now and being a father, it's not the best possible combination, let's face it. You know.
Did your kids go with you when you were out in New York?
They didn't, no. They have been to some shows, and I took Paris, the girl, to Italy when we went there for 3 or 4 days. She came along during the tour, got a flavour of what it is to be behind the scenes on a tour, and you know, I tried to get her involved because we do a lot of online marketing promotion and we use all the forums, and so I give a little task to say you can be event manager of the Facebook pages, you know, if you want, and give her things to make her feel a part of the whole thing. And she's a big music fan now, and of course will be even more so, I think, as she gets older.
Yeah,
so that's nice for her, you know.
Oh yeah, that's, my daughter's the same way too. It's all about music. You know, on a bad day, she needs music. On a good day, she needs music. You know, she's always going out. Hey, Daddy, I want to go to this show. I want to go to that show. You get the same thing too.
Yeah, we take her to a lot of gigs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, see that's cool. Did you take her to see Depeche Mode?
Well, she did come along. She came along to the Albert Hall show, and both kids came to that. Yeah. Stan, the boy, he was really excited he met Martin, and he hadn't quite realised, you know, we were 4 or 5 numbers into watching the show, and he turned around and said, "Is this a gig, Dad?" And then, it was his first real gig, you see.
That's cool.
And he had just before that been backstage playing table football with Martin, and then he said, "There's that man I was playing football with," you know, and he saw him on the stage. So it kind of, the penny dropped, as we say. You know, he suddenly realised what we were there for and what it was all about.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. You get to actually see, like,
I mean, to see the genuine excitement on their faces, you know, and I mean, we can all remember the first gig we ever went to, probably, and how exciting it was, you know.
What was your first?
Actually, I say I can remember it, but I don't know if I can. I think the first gig I ever saw was The Who at Hammersmith Odeon. It's now called the Apollo in Hammersmith, but it was called Hammersmith Odeon at the time. That would have been in the 70s, 74, 73, 74. They were great as well, really good. And I saw Dr. Feelgood there.
Oh wow.
They would have been some of the first gigs I ever saw. Alex Harvey Band.
Now, did you ever take pictures at any of these shows, or?
No, I don't think I did. No, I mean, people didn't really tend to have cameras very much. It's funny, isn't it? You can't imagine it these days, but people didn't have cameras in those days. You'd have had to have a big old camera, you know, with film. You couldn't take any instant pictures, could you? I don't think people bothered taking cameras to shows then.
That's true.
Actually, those were the days when people actually watched a concert instead of watched it through their phone screen like they do now.
You notice that too, huh?
That gets on my nerves, actually. You know, you look out, you're on stage, you look out, and you just see people down in the audience doing this, and they're tweeting to their friend next to you, and they're just completely missing the fact that you're doing a gig.
Especially when
you've waited 17 years for me to go back on the road, and now you're sitting in the audience tweeting. Come on, put it down, put it in your pocket.
Dancing, having a good time, enjoying the atmosphere. Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah. God. I'm at a standstill right now. So, you're not going to be home for Halloween, or are you?
No, we're playing in New York that night, I think, or is it? No, we're playing in Baltimore that night.
What do you usually do?
Well, we don't celebrate Halloween in a big way in England. It's not. It really is an American thing. We have imported it, and people do get their
parties.
They have their pumpkins, and they put on the hats and stuff. But it's nowhere near as big a thing as you have over here. It's a real big event for you lot, isn't it?
No, yeah, that's one of our biggest. I guess,
You hear someone's not dressing up, they're like, "What?"
Yeah, especially like at my other job, it's like the same thing where you have to dress up, and like every year I'm something really gross and bloody or something. You know, and I'm a big horror freak. So,
Right.
What about you, movie wise? What do you like?
I like a lot. I mean, I watch a lot of film and movies, and I'm not so crazy about the horror genre, you know. Although sometimes there's some really great scary films, of course, you know. I think my favourite director would be Stanley Kubrick.
Oh yes.
You know,
Clockwork Orange.
just brilliant, you know. And then of course Lynch, I suppose. I want to see the new David Fincher film. You know, that's an interesting subject, I think.
What's it
That's The
called
Social
again?
Network.
Oh yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, about Facebook and all that.
Heard
But
it's
there's all
good.
kinds of things, you know. I just saw the new Noel Baumbach, is that his name? He directed The Squid and the Whale, and there's a new film called Greenbaum or Greenberg.
Oh, yes, yes,
with,
yes.
Penn Stiller.
Yes.
That was quite good. And I watched another one in the hotel the other night with Annette Bening and Julianne Moore, called The Kids Are All Right.
Okay.
It's about a lesbian couple who are bringing up 2 children, and the sort of dynamics of that whole relationship. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think one of us did the premiere.
I tend to like drama actually. I don't go for big Hollywood blockbuster type films. you know.
More indie films then.
I'm more into kind of really well acted, good storytelling. You know.
Yeah.
For example, I didn't really get off on. Is it called Inception?
Okay,
Didn't
yeah,
see it.
Inception, yeah.
Things
yeah,
like
I haven't
that.
seen that one.
They
but-
wash over me, you know.
Yeah.
Too clever and no real story, and I just prefer something
All
kind of,
visuals.
a more realistic kind of
Right.
approach. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the Anton Corbijn film about Joy Division Control.
I haven't seen
You
that
haven't
one.
seen that?
No.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I gotta check that one out.
That's a true story, obviously. So yeah, a wide range of things.
Okay. Now I have to get back to the music.
Okay.
All right. Now your typical day. I mean, when you what makes you all of a sudden get in like that creative mode where there's some people, they could be like driving somewhere and all of a sudden like oh I gotta write this down. And how's it with you?
Well, I think a lot of people will tell you that ideas come at strange moments. You know, you can be racking your brains to do something, nothing really happens, and then you give up on it and you go and do something else, and you're completely in a different frame of mind. Then suddenly it comes to you. You know. On the other hand, I find that I do need to actually sit down in front of the machines and start working if I'm really going to get anything done. I can't expect to just have some divine inspiration all the time. Recently I've realised that it's actually quite useful to have your laptop with you all the time, and like many musicians these days, I've managed to scale a lot of what I do right into the laptop there. And there's plenty of times when I'll literally be in bed and just grab the laptop and do something in bed with the music, and that's a relatively new thing to be able to do, and it's actually really great, really useful. And I've been known to get up at, or just sit up at 5 in the morning, get a computer, dial up Logic and start doing something,
Do you start everything like do you start with like a rhythm first, or do you go straight
There's
into
no real rules. Often do start with rhythm because it's some kind of rhythm loop, because that's a good way to get going. But it could often be just a sort of atmospheric sound that sets an instant mood. And I think that the important thing for me is to create an atmosphere early on, so that that can be very inspiring to give you lots of different ideas about where to go with it. And so there's no real rule, it's just some sort of little idea comes along and off you go.
What programs do you use? If you don't mind
It's
asking?
mainly Logic with lots of plugins, and then when we play live here, we use Ableton Live because that's quite a good way to sort of run live effects and keep them in sync and all that kind of thing. So we put it together in Logic and then we transfer it into Ableton for the live show, and then plug a few sounds to synths for filtering and that kind of thing.
And do you ever now do you ever do like live sampling at all? Do you do that still, or?
How do you mean? Do it?
Well, there'd be like a clanking of something or going somewhere like there's a machine.
Yeah, definitely, occasionally. Yeah, it's not just working with existing loops. I mean, I really enjoy taking people's performances and chopping them up, you know, so you get a live performance. I mean, that's really what I do. That's what I'm most interested in, is regurgitating bits of live performance, you know, but with using the technology to sort of restructure that, but retaining all the humanity of that performance. You know? That's why you said to me, you know, you're a big electronics fan, and it's not really what I do. People have this idea I'm an electronic musician, but not really. I mean, it's a part of what I do. You know, sometimes I like to have a very precise sequence of running or a very precise piece of rhythm, and then with it have something that's very, very loose, you know, like a gospel vocal or something. So it's really all things combined is what I'm most interested in.
Yeah, I noticed downstairs when you're listening. Did that take like a long time to just one day just figure out, okay, look, I need this certain sound, I need it to sound just like this?
I think it comes with experience, you know, of knowing what you're listening to and knowing how that's comprised, you know, what really determines, you know, I'm not that technical really, but I know enough about the frequency range of sound to know where key points are if you want to bring something out in a sound, if you want to bring out a certain voice or a certain part, or you want to bring the snare drum a little bit forward in the mix without being able to literally push the level of the snare itself up. You could say, okay, well, let's pinpoint the overall frequency of this mix that I know is going to be around the hit of the snare drum, you know, and just lift that, and it's just tailoring the sound.
Right.
And you play a lot of different rooms, different venue. Every place sounds completely different. You've got to just tailor your system to suit the music that you're sending through that particular PA for that particular room. You just get to know. Well, we don't always get it right, you know, but we can get close.
Where has been the best place that you played, sound-wise?
For sound alone, that's a difficult question. I mean, interesting, last night had a great sound, but the room that was in San Francisco in the mezzanine, they had a very good PA system. This place has a better room, but not quite as good a PA.
Right.
So, you know, it's going to be different, but not bad. I couldn't really tell you what the best place for sound is. I can't really remember. They're just all different, you know.
Yeah.
But there are certain places that have great sound. Yeah, I saw Massive Attack play in Brighton recently. There's a venue called the Dome, and the sound in there was just incredible. I mean, really spot on, you know.
Yeah, there's the Music Box over here in Hollywood. Yeah. That place is. I think that has been like. I think that's been the best place that we've seen.
Yeah.
Because like I'm a big fan of industrial music,
yes.
and like Combi Christ, and even go back as far as like Skinny Puppy and Robbie Gristle, Cam FDM, bands like that. And there was when Combi Christ played at the Music Box, it was like, whoa. I mean, it was, you know, almost kind of like how it sounds here, but just crisper.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you say, you know, there's a certain, like whether it be a certain beat or maybe a certain like bass that, you know, once it hits, it's got to have that one sound. Yeah, that was that place right there. So, but on that note, thank you so much. Thank you for the little personal conversation. I didn't want to make this like your typical interview. You know, I want to at least get a little personal, talk about the kids. You know, just Alan Wilder, not just Alan Wilder, the musician. So thank you very much.
You're very
welcome.
That. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you.